Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're looking at a story that literally defies all logic. It's one of America's strangest, most enduring, and honestly most baffling unsolved mysteries. If you're the kind of person who loves piecing together a puzzle where the pieces just absolutely refuse to fit, well, you're definitely in the right place. We're going to unpack the case of a man who seemingly vanished without a trace, and we'll try to make sense of the completely impossible. Let's get right into it.
I want you to think about this for a second. What if someone walked into a hotel, entered their room, and then just completely disappeared? No, seriously, imagine a scenario with absolutely no cameras, zero witnesses seeing them leave, and to this very day, nobody actually knows what happened. It sounds like something straight out of a fiction novel, right? But this is a very real, very famous American mystery that has defied explanation for literally decades. How does a real, live person just cease to exist in a crowded building?
To even begin to understand this, we need to ground ourselves in the facts. The timeline starts right here in the U.S. back in 1935. So a man checks into the hotel president in Kansas City under the name Roland T. Owen. Now, at first glance, it's a completely standard check-in, nothing crazy. But over the next few days, things took a really sharp turn into the bizarre, marked by intense paranoia and really weird arguments. And this all escalated until one horrific morning when he was found seriously injured. And the final detail, the one that really twists the knife in this whole mystery, is that years later, his identity was revealed to be entirely fake. Okay, let's dive into this. The absolute epicenter of our mystery is room 1046. What started as a totally standard overnight stay quickly morphed into an environment just completely shrouded in shadows and, frankly, extreme paranoia. It didn't take long for the hotel staff to realize something was deeply, deeply wrong with their guest.
Because this wasn't just a guest who wanted a little privacy, you know? This was someone acting like they were being hunted. Look right here on the slide. He kept the room in constant darkness, the curtains always tightly closed. Whenever hotel staff knocked on the door just to do their normal jobs, he was incredibly nervous, totally on edge. But definitely the most disturbing part, witnesses reported hearing mysterious arguments coming from inside his room. Remember, he checked in completely alone. So who exactly was he arguing with in the dark? Eventually, the tension in room 1046 finally snapped. One morning, the eerie quiet of the hall was just shattered. Hotel staff entered the room and walked straight into an absolute nightmare. They found Roland seriously injured, and we're not talking about a minor accident here. It was a devastating, gruesome scene that immediately triggered a massive, full-scale investigation.
So, the crucial point is what happened next. Investigators arrive on the scene, they find a man gravely wounded, and before he ultimately passes away, they actually manage to get a statement from him. They desperately ask him what happened, and his dying words were simply, "I fell and hurt myself." That was it. He literally claimed he just fell. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive contradiction sitting right at the heart of this mystery. Because on one hand, you have his super adamant claim, "I fell and hurt myself." But then on the other, you have undeniable physical evidence staring you right in the face. The room showed clear signs of a brutal, violent struggle. Plus, several of his personal items were just completely missing. Investigators knew instantly, for sure, this was no accident. It was a cover-up, spoken literally with his dying breath.
But honestly, the strangest part was yet to come. When investigators tried to notify his next of kin, they hit an absolute brick wall. Nobody, and I mean nobody, could confirm his identity. As the investigation dragged on, this staggering truth finally came to light. Roland T. Owen didn't even exist. It was a totally fake name. The man who covered up his own murder was essentially a complete ghost.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer number of lingering, deeply unsettling questions it leaves us with. If Roland T. Owen wasn't his real name, who was he? Why was he hiding so meticulously in that specific Kansas City hotel? Why the completely dark room and the intense, almost suffocating paranoia? And hey, if he was hiding from someone, who on earth was the unseen visitor witnesses heard him arguing with?
To try and answer those questions, we have to look at the two leading theories that really turn this case into a foundational piece of American true crime lore. It still haunts the country today. So a large portion of people believe this was a mob hit, an enforcer tracking down a loose end in 1930s Kansas City. And honestly, that perfectly explains the violent struggle and the missing items. But the other major theory? It suggests he was just a regular civilian running from an incredibly dangerous personal secret, absolutely terrified of his past catching up to him. Both theories perfectly fit his eerie behavior, but here's the kicker. Neither has ever been definitively proven. Nearly a whole century later, the dust has long settled, but the actual truth? It hasn't. this mystery still haunts America today. I mean, who was the mysterious visitor in room 1046? Who walked out of that hotel with those missing items, leaving behind a dying man who absolutely refused to name his attacker? I want you to think about the clues we've explored today. What do you think really happened in the dark of room 1046? It's like a giant puzzle with a massive missing piece. Keep digging into the evidence, stay curious, and thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.